Good morning. So this is lesson number 1 under crop production. The objective of the lesson at the end of this unit, you should be able to explain the meaning of agriculture, identify the sphere and branches of agriculture, explain the importance of agriculture, identify the parts of the plants and its functions, explain plant growth, reproduction, and development of plants, identify the factors affecting the growth of plants. First, let's have agriculture as introduction of this lesson. So what is agriculture? Agriculture is derived from two Latin words, ager and culture, which means ager, soil, land, and field, while culture means cultivation. So agriculture means the cultivation of the soil. The question is agriculture can only find in cultivation? The answer is no. It includes crop production, livestock farming, fishery, forestry, business, management, etc. In other words, agriculture is the science and art of farming, including the work of cultivating the soil, producing crops, planting forest plant trees, raising livestock, and rearing fishes for economic purposes and human needs. We also have sphere of agriculture. We have three sphere. The first one is geoponic. Geoponic is the cultivation in earth or to grow plants in a normal soil. Next, we have hydroponic, the cultivation in water, or it involves growing plants without soil by using mineral nutrient solution in an aqueous solvent. Next, we have aeroponic, is a cultivation in air or the process of growing plants in an air or mist environment without the use of soil or an aggregate medium. We have different branches of agriculture. So we have a lot of branches of agriculture, but we will discuss only 5 as of now. So we have agronomy, horticulture, agricultural engineering, agricultural economics, animal science. So first is agronomy. So when you say agronomy, this deals with soil management and the growing of crops. Horticulture deals with the cultivation of fruits, vegetables, and ornamental crops. Agricultural engineering involves knowledge of farm machines and equipment. It also deals with developing new systems and practices to address problems facing agriculture. Agricultural economics deals with the business and the farming. It is also known as agronomics, while animal science is basically the breeding and caring of animals for specific purposes such as for their meat, milk, and fur. Next topic is about the importance of agriculture. So one of the importance of agriculture is it is a source of livelihood, especially now that we experience pandemic. A lot of people are no work at home. So they decided to transfer or to have an extra income and learned agriculture in their own way. So agriculture become their livelihood or become or give them another extra income. Next is contribution to national income. So we all know that a large or a percentage of agriculture in under agricultural sectors give large amount of percentage in the national income of our country, especially in the Philippines because we are agricultural country. Number three, supplies of food and fodder. Basically, agriculture are basic needs of the human being and also the animals. Number four, raw materials or the source of raw materials. Some big companies need agriculture materials or raw materials to have a new product that they made. Number five, foreign exchange resources. So we do exporting and importing products. In exporting, we export aquaculture products, especially in the Middle East, because they are our number one client or um, client in aquaculture materials because they believe that aquaculture products are all halal food. Number six, great employment opportunities. As I've said in number one, it gives other income. It also gives employment to those people who have no work at this time of pandemic. Let's move on the other parts of the topic, which is parts of the plant. To understand fully how plant grows, lives, and reproduces, it is necessary to be familiar with different parts and the functions of each part. In crop production, it is vital that everything about plants must be learned by heart. Dealing with plants this way will give a lot of good, especially to the plant grower. This is for sustainable growth and development of the enterprise. Typical plants have three main parts or organs, such as roots, stems, and leaves. But other plants have specialized organs, such as flowers, fruits, and seeds. Each of these parts has its own function. So these parts work as a team, just like the different parts of the body. The roots is the first part of the plant. The functions of the root is it holds the plant in place and carry water and food from the soil to the other parts of the plant. Are the underground organs that support and anchor the above ground parts of the plant, absorb water and dissolve mineral from the soil and store food. Roots have also various characteristics for the benefit of the soil and the plant. Below are such qualities: feeding soil organism and contributing to soil organic matter, changing soil pH and filtering out toxins, regulating plant growth, limiting soil's resources of water and nutrients, strengthening soil and constructing channels. Next part is stem. So the function of stem, it supports the plants and serve as transport system, carrying food and water between roots and leaves. In some plants, stems store food and are also the main locomotion of photosynthesis, or rather location of photosynthesis. Stems have specific places where leaves are attached. Water and nutrients are carried by stems. These are brought to the leaves and to other parts of the plants. Next part, we have leaves. The leaves, the major functions of leaves is or are it manufacture food, interchange of gases between the atmosphere and the plant body, and the evaporation of water. Next, we have flower. So the function of flower, the flower have normally the basic parts of the flower. We have the male, which is called stamen, or female, which is called pistil. So for function of flower, it is for the flower for pollination, seed production, fruit production, and fruit function. In some plants, flower is normally for reproduction. Since the flowers are the reproductive organs of the plant, they mediate the joining of the sperm contained within pollen to the ovules contained in the ovary. So pollination is the movement of pollen from the anthers to the stigma. Next part is fruit. So the functions of fruit, a fruit protects the immature seeds from animals and extreme climatic conditions. It stores food material. It attracts animals that help in dispersing or scattering the seeds to distant places. Now let's talk about plant growth. When environmental conditions are suitable for seeding growth, seeds sprout and grow, seeds grow in a process called germination. In this process, the embryo in a seed uses energy from the food store in the cotyledons or in the sperms. In the sperms is a triploid food storage tissue in the seeds of flowering plants that nourishes the developing plant embryo. The embryo grows, splits the seed coat, and forms a root. When the primary root emerges, germination is complete. The primary shoot forms the stems and leaves. These are two forms of plant growth: the primary growth and the secondary growth. Primary growth takes place in the growing tip of roots and shoots of plants. It causes plants to grow taller and roots to elongate. The secondary growth makes the roots and stems of plant wider, thicker, and stronger. It enhances a plant's ability to survive. Next, let's talk about plant reproduction and development. Plants reproduce either by sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, a male sex cell, or what we call the sperm, and the female sex cell, or what we call egg, join to produce a seed that develops into a new plant or seedlings. In asexual reproduction, a new plant grows from some part of an old plant, or what we call a mother plant. To understand more about sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction, please watch these two videos.
Reproduction in plants. In this module, you will learn how sexual reproduction takes place in flowering plants. It is spring season. Flowers are blooming on the trees. It is indeed a beautiful sight. Flowers attract all of us. They are the most beautiful part of the plant, isn't it? You already know that flowers are not present only to add beauty to the plant. They are in fact the reproductive part of the plant. In the flower, stamen is the male reproductive part, while carpel is the female reproductive part. Some flowers contain both male and female reproductive parts. Such flowers are called bisexual flowers. For example, pea, China rose, etc. On the other hand, some flowers possess either the male or the female reproductive parts. Such flowers are called unisexual flowers. For example, corn, cucumber, etc. Now let us know about the different parts that make up a stamen and a carpel. A stamen is made of two main parts, anther and filament. The anther produces pollen grains. It is the pollen grain that contains the male gametes. A carpel, on the other hand, is made up of three parts. The terminal part is called the stigma. The middle elongated part is the style, and the swollen bottom part is the ovary. Inside the ovary, ovules are present. It is the ovule that has the female gamete called the egg cell. For sexual reproduction to take place, a male gamete is to be fused with a female gamete, thereby forming a zygote. Now for that, the male gametes have to reach the female gametes. For this, first a pollen grain carrying the male gametes is transferred from the stamen of a flower to the stigma of the same or the other flower. Such transfer of pollen grains is known as pollination. If the pollen grain of a flower lands on the stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. But if the pollen grain of a flower lands on the stigma of another flower of the same or another plant of the same type, it is called cross-pollination. Pollination occurs with the help of different agents like wind, water, or animals. Once a pollen grain reaches the stigma of a suitable flower, a tube grows from the pollen grain. This tube travels through the style and reaches the ovary. The male gamete from the pollen travels in this tube and reaches to the female gamete present in the ovule of the ovary. After that, the male and the female gamete fuse together to form the zygote. This process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. The zygote formed after the fertilization then divides several times to form an embryo inside the ovule. The ovule develops a tough coat and changes to a seed. The ovary, on the other hand, ripens and forms a fruit around the seed. At this time, the other parts of the flower, like the sepals and petals, fall. Hello happy friends! Welcome to new happy learning video! Plants, like all living things, need to reproduce to perpetuate their species, to survive through time. Today, we're going to get to know plant asexual reproduction. In asexual plant reproduction, flowers don't intervene. There's no need for a gamete of female and male cell. In asexual reproduction, there's only one parent, so the new plants will be genetically identical to this. New plants can originate from a single cell, tissue, an organ, or a part of a mother plant. There are two types of asexual reproduction: vegetative reproduction and reproduction without seeds. Let's get to know them. If you want to get to know vegetative reproduction, what root vegetables, bulbs, stolons, and rhizomes are, if you want to learn how plants without seeds reproduce, what mosses and ferns are,
Okay, so that is about sexual and the sexual reproduction. Now let's talk about the different factors affecting the growth and conditions of plants. Different plants are adapted to live best in different vegetational areas in the world, enjoying the kind of soil, climate, temperature, seasonal changes, and amount of water that are best suited to their needs. These are important factors that affects the rate of growth, size, and reproduction of all plants. The first factor is soil condition. Soil has its own physical, chemical, and biological properties, which are all equal important in having good soil. Favorable soil conditions are very important and should be considered carefully in selecting a location. Plants depend on soil for anchorage, water, and nutrients. The physical properties of soil are very important as they influence soil-water-air relationship. For most of these properties are the following: soil texture, which refers to the relative proportion of sand, silk, and clay that constitute a type of soil. Soil structure, which refers to the arrangement or grouping of the different soil particles, and bulk density, or what we call the degree of compaction and porosity. Soil of good quality is loamy, granulated, loose, and porous. Different plants have different soil requirements, so careful selection of crops to be planted in a specific type of soil is necessary. The different types of soil are the following: sandy soil, which is loose, gritty, and coarse; loamy soil, which has fine, medium, and coarse particles in about equal degrees; and clayey soil, which is sticky and can be molded in any form when wet but forms hard clods when dry. Organic matter of the soil increases its water holding capacity and granulation. The ideal kind of soil to be used for planting has a composition of one-third sand, one-third compost, and one-third ordinary garden soil. Next is water supply. So water is an important factor for the proper growth of plants. Nutrients from the soil are transported by water through the roots, then to the different parts of the plant. Water becomes very necessary during the dry season. Therefore, the planting site must be located in a place where water is easily available so that plants get enough water to grow and develop normally. So plants should be supplied with just the right amount of water. Too much water can wash out the nutrients in the soil or drown the plants. Next, we have drainage. Drainage, too much water causes roots to suffer from lack of air, thus causing the plants to die. So therefore, the area to be used for gardening must be well drained or capable of being well drained. Next, we have sunlight. Essential to the development of a plant is the amount of sunlight it receives. Sunlight influences the growth of plants through its effects on photosynthesis, transportation of nutrients, flowering, and reproduction, rate of absorption, etc. Plenty of sunlight helps produce healthy and good quality crops. Usually, crops should not be planted near buildings, trees, big shrubs, and fences since these may block sunlight. Next, we have climate. Climate is one of the factors that affect the growth of the plants because climate is the typical weather pattern of an area. So water, temperature, light, and wind are the major components of climate. It is an important factor in the survival of plants. It plays a large plant or large part in determining the kind and number of plants that an area can support. The growth from form of plant is also influenced by climate. Next, roads and transportation facilities. Plant produces are brought to the market as soon as they are harvested. So this should be done with minimum damage to the crops. Therefore, adequate transportation facilities is very essential. So the absence of these facilities limits the quality and quantity of plant produced, thus reducing or eliminating the possibilities of attracting buyers. Next, the proximity to market. The proximity of the farm site to the market is one of the primary consideration in selecting a site. An ideal farm site is one that is close to a good market where growers can sell their produce and ensure more profit. A market located near the farm site assures them that their products reach the market in good condition.